Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to allow just a little bit more time for our participants to join. Thank you. Okay, it looks like we have a round of participants that are in. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our July 28th webinar. And we are going to get started today with just a quick little housekeeping item, which is that the Q&A is open. We may not get an immediate response, but the Q&A is open. And we will monitor that before and after the meeting and attend to that. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first presenters. Kelly Goodman and Huck Spear are going to address supplemental special education services updates. And with that, Kelly and Huck, welcome.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here. Y'all are going to see my cute dog in her life jacket here for a second until I can get the presenter. You always want to make sure you know it's at least a cute picture of the dog that you're showing on here. All right, so I am the director of the Supplemental Special Education Services Program, or the SSES program, and I'm going to let Huck introduce himself right quick as well.
I am Huck. I'm the coordinator of the program.
Perfect. So the things we're going to cover today is we're going to go through just a quick overview in case you're not sure what SSES even is, and then through some data updates, and then we're going to talk about the new program that's under the SSES umbrella called SSES Plus. That's the medically fragile program, and then we're going to end with some resources for LEAs. All right, so the overview. As a reminder, none of this has changed. So this is the same program that started in January of 2021 that does give $1,500 first come, first serve grants that are one time only as of right now. There's always the possibility that that'll change in the future, but right now that's still a one-time grant. Last year on October 1st, we expanded from significant cognitive, as most of you are aware of, to be all students served through special education in grades pre-K through 12th. We also opened it up to pre-K. Families can go online to the Class Wallet Marketplace, and they can purchase educational goods and services through an online shopping platform. As a reminder, we don't do reimbursements. Families do not get a check. They do not get a credit card. All their purchases are approved by the lovely team at Region 10, thankfully, and not by Huck and myself anymore, and approved or denied in that order. So just as a little overview of how the program works. So families apply at the website that's listed there. And then LEAs are still required to inform families about this program, and we'll dive into that a little bit more as well. TA then determines eligibility based off their UID, and we inform districts of that, or inform families of that decision. Families may appeal, and this is a big part of Huck's job, is looking at appeals. And typically when an appeal happens, and Huck, correct me if I'm wrong, generally y'all are doing as LEAs what you should be doing. What's happening is the families are applying right after that meeting, after their initial ARD, and we just don't have updated paperwork in our PEMS coding. Because PEMS run about 6 months, give or take, behind. A family could become eligible in November for an account, but we won't know that they're eligible till the following September. So it does create a little bit of back and forth with the families. And so Huck goes through, they upload their IEP form or their enrollment form, if that's why they're not eligible, through a secure upload. And then we evaluate, I say we, Huck looks at each one of those on a case-by-case basis and determines eligibility that way. Additionally, we also rerun all of the applications that are ineligible at the time. We rerun them when we get new snapshot data following. So if a family doesn't want to appeal, they can wait, and we will eventually rerun that application. Then the families receive that $1,500 account, and they're created. We do prioritize accounts by 70% low socioeconomic. We use free or reduced lunch status. And then families also must complete an activation requirement within the first 30 days. Region 10 team, they do a great job. They'll reach out to those families and make sure that they know about this as well as it gets closer and closer to that time frame. But they must log in, and then they must sign the parental affidavit within that 30 days. That's considered the activation requirement. Then the families purchase orders, or they place their orders for goods and or services. Class Wallet is an online marketplace only, as I said before. We have about 44, it might be 45 now, approved vendors, and then there's over 900 service providers. Region 10, as I said, are a lovely grantee. They approve or reject every single order. They also tell parents why their order is being rejected. We do have, what's it called? The purchase requirements, so that families know what they can and can't purchase. A lot of times they're going over a threshold. We have thresholds for certain items, and sometimes they're just going over those. We do, if they provide educational justification, which we highly encourage every time, even if it's I'm buying pens, then that's when we'll approve those orders. And lastly, the families receive those items. And then Region 10 and or Class Wallet both send out a survey after families have spent about 2/3 of their funds or they're approaching a deadline. All right, so funding. So we started off this program, like I said, in January 2021, and this Gear 1 funding, this was all funneled through us at TEA. This funded about 18,000 accounts. Started as significant cognitive, now it expanded to everybody or to all students served through special education. This $30 million is gone. This funding expired at the end of June of this year. Then through Senate Bill 1716, Region 10 was granted $60 million, $30 million for 2 years, each biennium. And that was, we were estimating about 36,000 accounts. Then we got Gear 2 funding, I believe in January, 31 million. And then the ESSER 3 funding, that's the one that's dedicated specifically to medically fragile. We are currently on a wait list, but we still are accepting applications. We average about 18% of funds go unspent. And so with that 18%, we are able to reallocate those funds. And I'll kind of talk about that here in just one second. All right, so moving to the updates. So because of that 18%, we've been able to award 60,845 accounts, which based off of SB 1716 Year 1, and then the Gear 2 funding, Gear 1 funding, we'd only be able to award about 55,000 accounts if we just did like a 1-to-1. But because not every family spends every single dime in their account, we're able to reclaim that 18% and then reallocate it. So families are getting off the wait list, and assuming we get more money, more families will get off the wait list. That shows the breakdown, about 42,000 that are the 70% for free and reduced lunch. And then the 18,465 is the not free and reduced lunch eligible. And then as a side, over half of these accounts, or 30,000, have been just since May 1st of this year. So we'll also talk about that with the spending, but those people are going to town on the Class Wallet Marketplace and purchasing a lot of orders. So we had to wait a while because we had to get the Region 10 had to get their contract with Class Wallet, all of the fun things with grants. This one kind of shows our growth. I mean, as you can see, we are, as of this morning, we're at 99,856. We thought we'd hit 100,000 by the end of July. I think we're going to get there. Roughly about 83% of these families are found to be eligible. This is just applications, keeping in mind. But you can see there in October, we jumped up about 11,000, 12,000 just in 1 month, right? And then the same thing from October to November. It's also very interesting to look at these on a month by month. You can kind of see exactly where every weekend is. In November, it was real funny. You could see exactly where everybody had kind of a Thanksgiving break. And so we know that LEAs are assisting families and helping them apply because of the kind of growth we see with the application trends. Okay, so this is one of our most common questions we get is, what are people purchasing? And it's also probably the most difficult question to answer because it's a hard data set to pull. If you imagine an iPad, we have about 3 or 4 stores that sell iPads, all of which have about 10 different iPads. So that adds up to about, 1,132 different SKUs for the word iPad. Some of them are cases, some of them are, whatever you call them, the little plexiglass, Apple Care, all sorts of things with the word iPad in them. And so it is hard to sort. So On the right-hand side where you see the goods breakdown, where you see the technology as 32%, technology and school supplies actually flip-flopped. And the next slide has it more based off of money. But I only use the number 242,000 for the goods that are in the breakdown, meaning I took out a lot of the kind of the repetitive things and the smaller items. Again, we know families are purchasing books. Scholastic is one of our more frequented shops. But because they title books without the word book in the title, like where the crawdad sings, it doesn't say a book at the end of it. It's hard to sort those as well. We're working with Class Wallet to better help us, be able to get a better list of what families are purchasing, but this is a good breakdown by category. We also had almost 50,000 orders in just July, which is about a quarter of all the orders that we've had in the last year and a half. And the top 3 stores pretty much continue to be Apples for Families, Staples, and Office Depot. They kind of switch the order every once in a while, but those 3 tend to be our top 3 hitters. All right, so this one is a little bit more interesting. So services, we want and encourage families to be purchasing services through here. Because services, if I have a service, I'm comparing it to a pencil on the last slide, it gives us less than 1%. But when we take services based off of cost and how much families are spending on services, we're closer to about 4%. Similarly to the percentage of orders, we're at about 3%. So this is encouraging that it's at least moving in an upward direction. As I said before, we have over 977 total service providers, which makes up 361 tutors, 478 therapists, 138 specialized services, and then 605 of that 977 have had at least one approved invoice. And then 5 service providers or companies do make up over about 800 of those invoices. Another thing I wanted to mention while we're talking about purchases is one of the limitations that we've had previously with Class Wallet is not being able to shop on a mobile device. That is no longer a limitation. Families are able to now shop from a mobile device. I feel like if I could see some of y'all's faces, y'all would be at least smiling at that. That has been a huge complaint and a huge limitation and something we've been working hard to get. Not all 44 of the approved vendors are on there, but there's a good majority. I think it's well over half that have the mobile version. So if a family has had an account for longer than about, a month or so, tell them that they now can purchase on a mobile device. One of the things that Huck and I kind of hold on to, were some programs like this are a lot like Yelp. You only hear the really, really, really bad things as far as email complaints day to day. So from the survey that we sent out, that Region 10 sent out at the end of 2021, these are things that we really hold tight to. Obviously these things might not be just a result of the SSES program, but we had over 93% of families, according to the survey, that were satisfied with this program. We assume that the other 7%, we do have short timelines. That has been one of the complaints, but due to the funding sources, it's kind of out of our control. We are trying to encourage families to, tell us if they're purchasing services, and I'll talk about that here in a minute as well. But that's been one of the limitations is the funding sources, like the Gear 2 that we just got, the 31 million, it expires at the end of September, but it was supposed to be the end of June and it got pushed back. So to be able to reallocate and reclaim some of those funds so we don't have to send a bunch of money back, we have short timelines. And so that's been one of the complaints. The mobile shopping, which we've mitigated now, has been one of the complaints as well. But this top left one really kind of hits home for me, is that the student couldn't even focus for very long, only 5 to 10 minutes. And now he's able to focus up to 45 minutes. And then his reading skills have also improved from a second grade level to a 4th grade level. All right, so now we're going into our SSES Plus program that's for students identified as medically fragile. And we have some resources for y'all that I'll send the link for here in a few minutes. But we have one of the one-pagers has a good side-by-side of the main SSES program and then the new SSES Plus medically fragile. So SSES medically fragile, who qualifies? Students who are identified as medically fragile. That funding is the $20 million in ESSER 3. The main SSES program, again, that's all students served through special education, now pre-K through 12th. And then that total funding for that has been $121 million. So here's the Texas definition of medically fragile. and I'll kind of give you all a couple seconds to read through this. But essentially, we do use the PEMS data to pull the eligible list. They must have the medically fragile identified on their IEPs, as that's what we use to pull that student group list. And the bullet that really hits home for us is this last one, is that they live with the ongoing threat to his or her continued well-being. And so that's the big one for us as far as this specific population. In Texas, there's only about 2,642 students identified as medically fragile in Texas. This is less than a half of 1% of the total number of students served through special education. 419 LEAs, y'all only have one student identified as medically fragile. The average LEA in Texas has 6 students, but there's only 168 LEAs, 168 students. I misread that, sorry. Only about 11% of districts have more than 10 medically fragile students. And then currently we have 622 medically fragile students already with SSES accounts. And so once we've identified those, so it's about 25% of that 2,642 number, we've identified those students and we will contact those families directly if they've already applied and have an account. So this program begins very soon. August is already next week. Families of qualifying students will receive these online accounts to purchase goods or services that help their student access public school and or health-related services at home or where care is provided. These SSES Plus accounts are going to begin with a $5,000 account. So if a family already has an SSES account, they will get that $3,500 difference put into their current SSES account. And then families are able to request additional funds for more expensive items. So we have enough funding for all the 2,642 medically fragile students for a $5,000 account, plus additional funds. So families can fill out a form, and then Huck and myself will look through their form. Additionally, we also have a checkbox, and Huck is a blessing because he also speaks Spanish. So we can call those families and help them and assist them with filling out those forms. We also obviously welcome the LEAs to assist the families in filling out those forms. But we didn't want I'm not a very confident writer myself. And so for me to fill out a form for additional funding kind of seemed a little daunting. And so if I could talk somebody through what I needed, that would be helpful. And so we have that option for parents as well. The application is the same. There's not a checkbox. There's not a separate button they need to push. It's all in the same current application. TEA on the back end is going to go and make sure that those families that we use our UID lookup, and then we know that those families are eligible for the SSES Plus program. We don't want to keep the SSES Plus program like a secret. However, we're not going to market it the same way we have done with the SSES program. Because they get $5,000, there's going to be a lot of families who are like, why do they get more money? And all these other questions. And we do have a lot of that answered on our FAQs. But we didn't want it to be a family applying for medically fragile because they think they're medically fragile and then not getting that account. We wanted it to be the same exact application. And then again, I've already mentioned this, but there'll be $5,000 accounts and they can request additional funds. If they've already applied, they do not need to apply again. We already have record of their application. If they already have an account, we're going to give them the $3,500 into that account. If they've applied and they've not yet received an account, they will receive the full $5,000 in the first couple weeks of August. All right, purchases. Families will be able to purchase from all the vendors that are currently on the Class Wallet Marketplace, and additional stores are being added strategically. We've had we had a focus group, as well as we had a survey for families of students identified as medically fragile that already had a Class Wallet account. And a lot of them said that some of the items that they needed that were specific to the medically fragile student population were not available. And so we're working to add more stores as we progress. Families will also be able to purchase items through direct pay. So if there's a mom and pop shop in their town, they can use essentially like the invoice method for service providers to be able to purchase goods from that vendor as well. They do have separate purchasing requirements, and we're in the process of getting that linked and everything right now. They will still have some of the same thresholds, but they'll be able to provide justification. One of the best examples for this one is cleaning supplies. Cleaning supplies standardly is an auto reject. For the main SSES program, we will not approve cleaning supplies. We actually had one family that I think tried to purchase about $800 worth of trash bags at some point. But we don't approve cleaning supplies. However, on the SSES Plus program, if a parent wants to purchase cleaning supplies and their justification says, like we had this example in the focus group survey, is that her son crawls, he can't walk. And so she needed to be able to make sure his space was clean for him. That is something that we would approve. That is a health related service. And so that's something that we would take into an account and likely approve. Families will also have a more curated list. This is something that Region 10 is working on as well, but more instructional videos on how to get those direct pay vendors on there, as well as here's some stores that have these kind of items that are, common for this population. And then similarly, and just like the regular SSES program, all items are still going to be approved one by one. That is one of the benefits of our program, is that every item gets eyes on it. Every order is approved or rejected. All right, so here's our resources. So I'm going to leave this site up for a second so y'all can get that website down. It is also, if you just go to the tea.texas.gov and you go to the SSES page, you can get to it in a few different ways. The easiest way is probably on the FAQs page. But these are the resources that we've created for districts. So the main one, and that's the one I was talking about, that's that side by side. All of these are in English and in Spanish. That's the comparison of what is the SSES Plus program comparatively to the main SSES program. Then we have the overview in the middle that has some of those fast facts that that we went over here just a second ago. We've also created a customizable letter for y'all. Y'all can copy and paste that text, or you can just slap your LEA's name on the fillable field on the bottom on the PDF. Again, a lot of y'all only have one person, one medically fragile student in your district. You don't have to send them a letter. You can probably just call them and make sure they know that they're eligible. We also on the same website have specific medically fragile FAQs. We'd encourage you, if you have any questions, both to look here for the medically fragile, but then as well at the main SSES FAQs. Those have been customized. We're updating those daily. This website just became live on Monday, so forgive us if there's a couple typos, but we've been working on it to get everything updated for y'all. This website is not new. I just wanted to point out a couple things. This one you can get to also from the SSES website. If you go to outreach materials, if you scroll down to the very bottom, we have resources for districts, for LEAs. This includes important links for families, just short little, here's our website, here's FAQs, those sort of things. The technical assistance with contact information. The one-page resources that are for the main SSES program are here as well. Those customizable documents for the main SSES program. The videos, if you haven't watched some of those videos, I highly encourage you to watch some of them. They're very heartwarming. They are about a year old. They're the same videos that were on there from last year. And those are interesting because the Spanish ones that are on there they're not just the English ones translated. It's a family submitted that in Spanish. And then the SSES Plus medically fragile resources are here as well. And then this one I just wanted to point out to y'all, that's kind of in the red. There is a link if a parent, we've had this feedback too. We know our timelines are shorter. If families are wanting to purchase services and they're having a hard time getting their service provider on the website, whatever the case may be, their service doesn't start for 3 months, something like that. We on the back end kind of switch their funding to a funding source that has a longer expiration date. But LEAs, y'all can refer families to this link here, and y'all can help them fill it out as well. We also have mentioned the LEA requirements under Senate Bill 1716. So again, this has not changed. This has been in place now for almost a year. But under rule, you must provide parents of the or tell them that they're eligible for the SSES program and how to apply. The second part of this is that you have to do it at an ARD meeting as well, but we added this first part so you can do it anytime during the year. You don't have to wait for the student's next annual ARD. You don't have to do an amendment. You can just do it at the beginning of the year. Again, these letters have not changed, or these resources have not changed. There's the one page here, and this one's available in the top 5 languages, again, with the sample letter here. And then during an ARD meeting, we have a flow chart that kind of helps you walk the parent through the process of determining if they have an SSES account. Similar one page here. And then the last thing that y'all have to supply the parent with is how to access the online marketplace. And this last one pager will do those. These resources are not required. You do not have to use our resources. They're just there as an option, but they do fulfill the rule under Senate Bill 1716. All right, so lastly, I'm going to put these 2 websites up here one more time. So we know we're on a wait list. Again, if a family applies now, it's still first come, first serve. So whenever we are able to get additional funds, we start from the bottom of that application and continue on. So you still must be informing families about the SSES program. And then again, under the rule, y'all do not have to, because the SSES Plus program is so new, but we do encourage you to inform eligible families of the SSES Plus Medically Fragile program, in addition to the main SSES program. Please be careful that you're not sending the medically fragile resources to families who are not eligible for the medically fragile program. We feel like that would cause some confusion. All right, so lastly, here again, we recommend you looking at the FAQs, both for the main SSES program, in addition to the SSES Plus Medically Fragile. And then I have left here the resources for contacting Region 10, who is our main SSES help kind of group, both their phone number and their email. All right, I feel like I talked pretty fast, but I got it done in 4 minutes faster than I did with the ESCs. So I feel like that's pretty good progress. Huck, I don't know if you want to mention any of the specific Q&As or if you've been answering those along the way.
I have, I'm working on, yes, I'm sorry, I'm bumbling. There have been a few, I've been answering a few things along the way. I hope I've been answering them in a way that's satisfactory. Lori Grisham asked a really good question that I am actually not 100% sure about. And so I want to double check on that. Students served using prop share funds who are attending private school but receive SPED services at a public school, are they eligible for SSES? And the general answer is any student who's enrolled in a Texas public school in any capacity, I believe, and receives special education services is eligible. I'm unsure whether those students in that specific scenario are in that basket.
Fair. I'm unsure as well. Based off that, I'd have to read your question too, but.
Okay, well, the Q&A questions will be sent to you, Kelly and Huck, and then you'll have an opportunity at that point to do any research that needs to happen and respond as you see fit. So is there anything more, Kelly or Huck?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And so for our, we have one more item on the agenda, which is to tell you about the what we're calling a SPED text website refresh or update. And so to look at that more closely, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. April Estrada, and she's the Region 10 Director of Associated Programs, as well as Dr. Gracie Whitley, who's the Assistant Director of Associated Programs at Region 10. And I am Leo Colegio. I work with School Family Community Engagement through the SFCE initiative, but also a whole series of TEA stakeholder groups and or activities such as these webinars. So through the grant side, I have the pleasure of working with April and Gracie. And so today, one of the things that comes out of that grant is the SPED text website. And so we're going to share some new features and some resources. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Whitley to share her screen and begin that review.
Hello, everyone. As Leo mentioned, I am getting ready to proceed with sharing my screen to begin that review. Just a moment.
While she's bringing that up, our ambition is to, just add that our ambition is really to get the word out about the SPEDTech's website to parents everywhere and educators. And too often in conversation or et cetera, we find that individuals are still unaware. And so we're really going through a whole series of steps to continue to get the word out there so that people can take advantage of the resources that are available in relation to special education on the SPEDTech's website.
Thank you. Everyone, we are super excited to show the refreshed SPEDTech's website. So for many of you who already visit our site, you probably have already noticed the new look. So we're just going to highlight a few of the new features. One of the first things we wanted to highlight is that the site is now available in English and Spanish. Our site is not such that just the framework itself, the design translates, but also all of the resources on the website will translate into Spanish as well. I'm going to do our preview, of course, in English, but there will be a moment when I get to a page, I may just preview that language for you real quickly so you can see what it looks like. Things that we want to highlight today, of course, we have the gallery on the home page that highlights a couple of resources such as the SSCS program. This is that 855 number where families can call and get support via SPEDTech for the Supplemental Special Education Services grant that many of them have received, that's run by Region 10. So we, of course, have that highlighted, and via the SPEDTech's website, they can also connect to those great resources Kelly and Huck talked about. Here we also will highlight our SPEDTech's resource locator. On the home page, you will notice, as well as across the top, we have sections for families and for educators. We also have a Get Involved section where it looks at webinars, how to create a My SPEDTech account, and events that has upcoming webinars that may be coming up, or focus groups or conferences. And then we will highlight new resources as they are made available in the featured resources section. So we're going to take a look at the SPEDTech's calendar. And on the calendar, we have an event coming up, which is our statewide webinar on the topic of what is Child Find. When one comes to this particular portion and click the event, they are readily able to see all of the details and then click the link to register, as well as reach out to a person should they have any questions. We're now going to go look at the For Families page. On this page, the feature that we wanted to highlight is the Families New to Special Education section. When this is clicked, the parent can access resources that can help them learn more about special education, such as what is IDEA, how to request an evaluation procedures, art process. This is a video created by TEA. My first art meeting. Some parents get really, are very nervous, and understandably so, about what to expect for their first art meeting. And the Texas Kin Network, they have created such a video that provides that information for families, and it's available in English and Spanish. So many of those resources, we aren't going to review them all, but they are available on this site. The next thing we want to look at, item, is the SPEDTech's resource locator. So to find the SPEDTech's resource locator, you can come under resources, and it is also available at the bottom of each of our For Families pages or our For Educators pages. So we're going to go here. I need to move my Zoom directions. And so when we go to the select options section and we have our topic, let's say we wanted information about art meetings, and we wanted information for parents, and we wanted that information in Spanish. And then we can further narrow our search by type. And I think one item we wanted to highlight for everyone is the My SPED Text account, or My SPED Text feature. Here, this is a portal where parents can sign up to receive updates, reminders of art meetings, FIE dates, things of that nature based on the dates that they put in. And also they are able to indicate topics of interest and resources where they want to receive more information, or resources, I should say, based on the topics of interest that they create. So they're able to see that. Once they log into their My SPED Text account, they are able to see resources just for individuals new to special education, highlight favorites, search resources based on their interest, as well as on the favorites part, they can indicate which one's a favorite by putting a star or unclicking, oh, my session ended, or unclicking a star. And I think those are the highlights. It times out when you stay out of it so long. And so I was waiting to present, so it timed out a bit, and that's a safety feature. But at any rate, I think those were the key sections we wanted to highlight. And we just want to encourage everyone to be sure to continue to visit the website, share information with families. Educators, please keep in mind that SPED Text does continue to have available the notice of procedural safeguards, as well as the Parents Art Guide in around 22 or so languages here, readily available for you to share with parents at any given time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Whitley. Can we take a look at the educators page? I'd like to take a moment to show that once more. And we'll just pan down through to see the different kinds of resources and information that's here for educators. In addition, if we can go back up just a touch, I'd like to click on the school family community engagement so that we can highlight a brand new resource that's that was recently generated. It's called the Family Engagement Framework. And this is, as you can see from the title here, this is a resource for school administrators. And what's unique about this is that it's derived from the self-assessment rubric, numbers 22 and 23, focusing on family engagement, as well as the effective schools framework. And so there is some largely some almost word for word excerpts taken to compose this this resource. If we can, moving down to the next slide, you'll see that there's six elements that compose the family engagement framework. If you could just make that a touch bigger, that would help. If that's, but it's okay, if not. There we go. Thank you. So the first one is partnerships with families, moving on to school climate. The third is basically professional development, enhanced communication for number 4, number 5, community connections, and then number 6, implementation of all of these pieces. And so if we go down to the next, so then within this resource, that was the framework. And now we see that there's a page for each of the 6 parts of the framework. This part, for instance, is the partnerships for families section, and it provides the administrator and his or her team a series of strategies that they can think about as they look to their SPP8 data, as they look to just their observations from how they feel that they're doing with their special education families, and so then based on this, then they are able to think about maybe trying whatever their strategy might be. Maybe, for instance, for the sake of argument, an administrator and their team might say, let's try the 2nd and the 4th bullet and compose a plan how that would be implemented with all of the various steps for accountability across the campus and so on. Well, that can happen for the next part of the framework, which is coming down to on the next page, the school climate one. The same kind of planning and conversation working towards implementation can take place, by which the school administrator and their teams can select strategies and create a plan. And so that's the layout. It's the same layout for each of the elements. So we won't go through each one, but we'll come here to this page here, which is called Alignment Across Systems. This one essentially takes links for professional development purposes for the principal, a connection to TPES, which is also the evaluation rubric, or for teachers on T-tests, and or to do with Title I Parent Compact. And so it links all of those pieces together with the key elements to basically bring around just an alignment, as it says, across systems, so that everything is together. I recognize that not every school district uses TPAS or T-test, but invariably every professional development section of the evaluation system for principals and teachers will have sections of the rubric that'll be focused on family engagement, school climate, all of these different key elements. If we can move down to the next slide, please. This is basically just talks a little bit more about what I opened up with talking about the School Family Community Engagement Initiative, SPED text, some of the new highlighted resources, and just once again, anything that please feel encouraged to share this with families and educators, as it does have fantastic resources that are constantly updated. So please feel very welcome to share those with staff and parents. April, did you, and that's basically the part that I wanted to share. Mrs. Estrada, do you have some closing thoughts?
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you all so much for joining. There will be a social media marketing campaign to do an outreach to make sure that all educators and families and stakeholders are aware of the refresh of the website, but also just all of those new and amazing resources that are available. Gracie and Leo shared some, but there's many more on there. So SPED Text will be pushing those out through their social media account. PRN, the Partners Resource Network, who many of you are familiar with, will also be outreaching with their families and parents. We encourage you to also reshare those on your district and campus social media sites, and really just encourage you to outreach and use SPED Text as a time saver. We know that you're all incredibly busy, and so when your campus administrators or central office administrators or teachers have questions that you probably know the answer to, but you just can't find it in writing, reach out to SPED Text. We will do that research for you. We have those answers already researched. We can pull together, what was that FAQ that TEA said about? We will pull that up for you. We know in these times you're already doing so many things, so please use this as a resource to find information for you, to gather information for you and your families. And just know that anytime a family reaches out to us, we are always sending them back to you. A lot of times they don't know that a special ed director exists, and we are encouraging them to contact you or their case managers or their campus principals, because oftentimes we know that if you knew about some of the things, you would be more than willing and happy to help correct those issues. And so just know we're always connecting them back to you. Other than that, we're just giving them the resources that are already available throughout the state. We're just saving people the time to have to search and find them themselves. So if there's anything that we can do for you at all, please reach out and let us know. Otherwise, please use the resources that are available to you to make your life just a little bit easier. And just thank you all so much for all that you do every day for the families of the state of Texas.
Thank you, Dr. Estrada. Thanks to all the presenters that presented today, and thank you all for coming to attend today's webinar. And so with that, we wish you a good afternoon. Thank you.